the 7 fictional tales about sugar. Hey, what's happening? This is Isai Rodriguez, host of the Dad-Splanation Podcast, where I cater to the professional working man, 40 and above, who's looking to make positive changes to his health, lose weight, and become stronger overall through simple lifestyle changes. I'm here to share inspiration, tips, and proven lessons that I've personally learned and lived through in my 40 plus years on this here beautiful blue planet. So today we'll start the discussion off by talking about why cereal for breakfast is no good in our first segment. Then we'll move on to our second segment and talk about the 7 fictional tales about sugar. And listen, your health and fitness goals are easier to achieve than you think. First and foremost, it's about getting your mind straight right from the get-go. And so I've got a freebie for you called the 10 Dad-Splanation Mind Hacks that'll help you whip your mind into shape so that you can turn around and whip your body into shape. Does that sound good to you? Then get on over to podcast.dadsplanation.com/mindhacks to get your freebie today and start using these 10 hacks to exercise consistently and create the real and lasting results that you're truly after and that you absolutely deserve. That's podcast.dadsplanation.com/mindhacks. Again, that's podcast.dadsplanation.com/mindhacks. Be in the know starting right now. Also, don't forget to rate me on Apple Podcasts or wherever it is that you're listening to this episode right now, and leave me a nice, fat, juicy 5-star review and some absolutely beautiful words of why you love the show so much. It really helps me get the word out, and it's honestly the one place where your vote truly matters. And now let's move into our first segment with Healthy Conversations. Oh yeah. How is everybody out there? It has been a little bit on the chilly side over here on the west coast of the USA. And I hope you guys are feeling great. I hope you are in great health. You're feeling awesome. I hope your family is blessed. I'm sending you all the warmest regards, wishing you the best. And have you guys, let me ask you something. There's I don't know if you've heard, there's this rare form of hepatitis that's going around, that's going across the EU and the US and the UK. And it's affecting children of all people. Like, I'm not sure. Have you guys heard about this? Like, doctors are literally scratching their head over this this new variant or this outbreak of hepatitis, because in the past years, what they call normal years, I suppose, like these hepatitis cases in children in the UK, like they've been there, present, but the numbers were really low, like in the single digits. And last week alone, 60 cases were reported in like across the UK. So that, obviously people are starting to get nervous. They're starting to be concerned about this strain, this outbreak of hepatitis that's going around, and it's apparently it's causing like liver problems in children and stuff. So this I guess they narrowed it down to the adenovirus 41 is what it's called. And it's like this rare outbreak of hepatitis in young children, and they're just like, they don't know what's causing it and why are the numbers spiking, basically, you know what I mean? So it's kind of strange. And doctors are wondering, why is it on the rise? Where did it come from? And how do we handle it? You know what I mean? So, but I mean, they're looking into it, and I guess what's concerning them is the fact that the numbers are so high, because, I mean, this particular strain, I believe, I mean, the news is just coming out, so I don't have the full details, but it's so, I mean, the specific variant, this strain, I guess, has been around, but what's concerning is the numbers again. So they're a little like, like, what do we do about this? So what they do know is that it was not caused. They're saying it's not caused by any COVID vaccinations or anything like that, because most of the children that were testing positive for this strain of hepatitis, they said that most of them have not been vaccinated just yet for COVID. So they're pretty confident at this point that it's not that, they're not, it has nothing to do with these vaccinations, So anyway, I just found that interesting and concerning at the same time. And again, the information is still pouring in, I suppose. And let's hope we're not on the edge of another outbreak here. But that being said, let's move into our first segment here with Healthy Conversations. So in this week's installment of Healthy Conversations, we're talking about why cereal for breakfast is no good. So what did you have for breakfast this morning? Let me ask you that. Let's drop it in the comments. We're starting this episode off with some interaction. We're gonna get this. We're gonna pop this. We're gonna get this going right now because I'm curious. I'm curious to know what you've all been having for breakfast lately. What is it like? So for me, it's been mostly oatmeal with berries, a granola, or maybe some scrambled eggs with avocado and toast. I love eating, and especially breakfast, because I know that whatever I eat is gonna set me up for the rest of the day. You know what I mean? And I also know that I'll have the entire day to burn off my breakfast. There's plenty of time to work up a sweat, to walk, to get active, to stay active. So all the calories that you take in for breakfast, you'll have damn near the entire day to burn that off. You know what I mean? So win-win right there, if you ask me. But have you ever felt like breakfast is the only reason to get out of bed in the morning? I'll ask you that. For me, I mean, sometimes it is, because I wake up and I'm like, I'm pretty damn hungry, if you ask me. And that's what wakes me up, because otherwise I'd be sleeping like Sleeping Beauty and whatnot. But that's another story. For real, sometimes it feels like the only reason to get out of bed in the morning is for your breakfast and maybe, your morning coffee. But that may be true on so many levels, but we can't forget about the all-important component of your morning, which is breakfast. You know what I mean? Like I said, the food you eat first thing in the morning sets the tone for your entire day. It's your nutritional foundation, the pedestal from which your day gets the jump, how you set yourself up. We naturally fast overnight while we sleep. And so when we wake up in the morning to eat breakfast, this ends your fast. Obviously, it breaks your fast. So for this reason, you want to be intentional about how you do that. You know what I mean? You'll want to think of your first meal like a clean slate, because it is really, that's the first meal of the day. You're getting your day started, and you want to start your day off right. Because, if we're going to do things intentionally, why not do it the right way right off the bat? You know what I mean? But so whatever you eat is going to go into an empty digestive system, and empty stomach, ergo clean slate. You know what I mean? And so eating sugary cereal for breakfast isn't doing your body and mind any favors. Let's just put it out there. Most breakfast cereal is lean in the protein department and the fiber department. You know what I mean? But they make up for it. They totally make up for it in the sugar department. You know what I mean? So which is not good. How sugar can easily get you going fast, but then it leads to a nice little crash and leads you to looking for more, right? Plus, a ton of breakfast cereals are, they're highly processed, which means they practically have zero nutritional value, to offer. You can think of it like an emotionally unavailable person you're in love with. I'll go there, So what I mean is that sugary cereal gives you a high that only lasts for a little bit, and then leads to a crash. Sounding familiar? And we've talked about this before, but a high sugar meal or even just high sugar foods in general, like what's going to happen is that they raise your blood sugar super quick. So you get that uppity feeling. You get that high, for lack of better terms, that you're looking for, that you're after. And that's because your body breaks down sugar pretty fast. So it enters your bloodstream like that quickly, This can make you feel jittery and anxious. And then later on, you'll feel tired and irritable, because your blood sugar crashes, obviously. And don't forget that you're gonna get hungry again pretty quickly, because that's the way the body works. That's the way sugar that's what it ends up doing in your body. So what makes a healthy breakfast healthy? That's a great question if you ask me. Excellent question. And here's what the experts say. What they say is that there's a lot of components or elements that make up a healthy breakfast, quote unquote, like I'm using air quotes here. Generally, you'll want your breakfast to have a mixture of proteins from eggs or cottage cheese, some healthy fats from nuts and seeds and avocado, whole grains from oatmeal or other nutrient-rich bread, and also some hydrating fruits like strawberries and oranges and blueberries, things like that. And this last part is super important because most of us wake up dehydrated right from the get-go. So adding these hydrating fruits will definitely help you feel refreshed and awake. So be sure to replace your sugary cereals with things like cottage cheese, oatmeal, pre-made smoothies, or even eggs. Like that's what you should always. You should also aim to have flavors and textures that you're craving in the morning. Because this is what I found over the years is that if you deny yourself what you're actually craving, you can easily end up having 2 or 3 breakfasts, because you end up chasing that you're craving, that desire to fulfill that craving that you're after. Until you do that, you're going to continue eating and eating and eating. So why not just do it right off the bat? If that's what you're after, if that's what you're craving, give your body what it's craving. Now, this will generally lead into an unhealthy lunch or just a day full of meals that just don't satisfy you at all if you don't feed that craving. This is the worst position you can be in. And this is what happens to a lot of people and why they can't stick to any specific diet, in particular. So, for example, if you're craving the crunch of a cereal, then it's pretty safe to say that a mushy bowl of oatmeal is probably not going to cut the mustard. You know what I mean? So it's just not going to be satisfying to your body because that's not what that's not what your body is like. That's not what it wants, and that's why I personally love granola. It gives it that crunch that I'm sometimes after, and that reminds me, we found this great natural granola from Sprouts Market. I don't know if you all have a Sprouts Market by you, but I forgot what it's called, but I'm pretty sure it's locally sourced. Like they have it in this big barrel, and you kind of scoop it out with the big scoop, and then you put it in a bag, and you do the little zip tie thing, and everything has a SKU number, so you have to write that on the bag. It's super delicious because it's flavorful and it's not that sweet, but listen, if you can't give up your cereal in the morning, that's cool, no big deal. Just look for one with a short ingredient list. They're out there, trust me. There are healthy cereals out there that have short ingredient lists, and that's what you're looking for. That they're low in sugar, contain nutrients like whole grains and fiber and protein, And some good examples, actually. Some of these brands that I found that have these, whole grains and fiber and protein, stuff like that, are Forager Project, Magic Spoon, Cascadian Farm. There's a couple other ones, but those are the three that kind of jump out at me right now that are in the back of my head. These three are great examples of brands that have improved the traditional bowl of cereal. You know what I mean? They've basically upgraded cereal to 2.0. And if you want to take it even further, you can try mixing cereals that deliver on different fronts, like on different nutritional fronts. So if you have a cereal that's primarily fiber, and then another cereal that maybe has protein, you can kind of combine them, like do like a half and half deal, and then add in some walnuts and blueberries, and then finish it off with your milk of choice. And then you have the best of both. You have fiber, you have it all, basically. Like, it gives you a nice, good foundation in your stomach to get your day started the right way, with plenty of energy, with plenty of nutrition in your stomach, to give you the energy you need to get going. So you can basically create your own high fiber, high protein cereal mix. That's what I do. Sky's the limit. Just think outside the box, for lack of better terms. You know what I mean? No pun intended, but that's how you do it. That's how you get there. And so the more you know, the better you'll be. And now, with all that said and done, let's switch gears and move on to our second segment with Mighty Man. Oh yeah. These sugary cereals are no good. I think we kind of know that, but it's good to reinforce that train of thought so that, it's kind of in the back of our heads, because it's true what they say: if you don't use it, you lose it. So if you're not thinking about it, if you're not practicing enough, just bringing it back up in memory reinforces it, so that when you're out there, when in the morning, when you're in your when you wake up, you're in your PJs, you're walking around the kitchen trying to figure out what you want to eat for breakfast to get your day started, you have that in the back of your head. And speaking of staying away from sugary cereals, in this week's installment of Mighty Man, we're talking about the 7 fictional tales about sugar. So all the lies, basically, that they've been feeding you about sugar, we're going to confront. I call them like the 7 top lies, if you will. You know what I mean? So there are a few things that we can all say for sure about sugar. Number 1 is that it tastes great, right? We could all agree on that one. And number 2, it's really, really confusing what everybody says. Because you hear one thing from one person, you hear another from another, you hear this doctor say this, you hear this, then you have like diets built around no sugar and things like that. And it's confusing. You know what I mean? And while we can all agree, again, that sugar isn't exactly a health food, I think you know that. We all know that. There is a lot of misinformation about how sweet stuff kind of factor into your diet, into your daily routine. So for example, are some types of sugar healthier than others? Like, that's a question that I've thought of, that has come up in my mind. And I know not only for me, but it has for many others, because when I get talking with others, like that topic comes up, And here's another one: will cutting sugar out of your diet really put you on the fast track to losing weight? So let me tell you, the answers might not be what you think. You may even be a little surprised, you know what I mean? So anyway, here are the 7 things that even nutrition savvy people may not realize about sugar. And more important than that, what you should do, or what you should know about fitting it into your diet. Are you ready to rock? Drop a nice headbanging emoji in the comments. Let's get this started right here, right now. Let's just lay it all on the table. So the first is, you should cut out sugar from your life completely. Have you heard this before? I'm sure you have, and you'll be surprised to know that the answer is, ready for this one? No. You don't need to cut added sugar out of your life completely. You don't have to go zero sugar, like no more sugar in your life. It's not necessary. Now, that being said, there's different recommendations from different health organizations for the amount of sugar you should limit yourself to per day, but what they all agree on, so there's different, this organization says one thing, the other organization says another thing, but what they all agree on is this point here is what they all agree on, and that there's certainly room for some sugar in a healthy diet. Let that sink in there for a bit. Now, I won't get into the boring details, but ultimately, your body really doesn't need sugar, period. So technically, cutting it out of your life completely could be a good alternative, but it's not necessary. You know what I mean? So having less is obviously better, you know what I mean? But that doesn't mean that you can't have any at all. It's all about, you guessed it, moderation. So that being said, we'll move on to the second fairy tale that you're being fed about sugar, and it's this. All sugar is bad sugar. You've probably heard over and over again about how we should all be eating less sugar. But what experts really mean is that we should be eating less added sugar. That's the additional sugar in foods to make them taste sweeter, like the brown sugar in chocolate chip cookies or the honey that you drizzle on your yogurt. These added sugar is different than the sugar that's naturally found in some foods like fruit or milk. So, for example, when you consider natural sugar from fruit, this natural sugar comes with a package of vitamins and minerals and nutrients all combined, all mixed in, like it's all one solid, like one package right there. Like you get like you don't get one without the other. You get the sugar, yes, but it does, you also get vitamins, you also get minerals, and you also get other nutrients that help offset some of that, some of the negative things about sugar that's contained in the fruit, So for instance, with fruit, you get fiber, that causes your body to absorb sugar at a slower rate. And that's one of the biggest things about sugar is how quickly your body absorbs it, So that fiber helps offset that fast absorption into your blood. So don't worry about things like whole fruit or plain dairy yogurts. What you do want to worry about are the added sugar type foods, things like desserts, cans of Coke or Pepsi, like the soda, or even packaged foods. Like these are the things you really need to keep an eye on. That's what you need to remove out of your diet. The third fictional tale is sugar's making you sick. Maybe you've heard that, eating sugar will give you heart disease, cancer, or even Alzheimer's, but the reality is that eating sugar in moderation isn't going to shave years off your life. Like, there have been studies conducted to find links between sugar and these illnesses, but they couldn't link it to an increased risk of death. Again, as long as you don't overdo it, and I can't emphasize that enough, as long as you do not overdo it, and that's what we're talking about here, the whole moderation thing, if you're overdoing it, you're not eating in moderation, period, As long as you don't overdo it, there has been no link to increased risk of death. So while small amounts of sugar doesn't seem to be harmful, having too much can put you at a risk for gaining weight. And it's the whole gaining weight, quote unquote, like that's the thing that brings with it all these other nasty goodies like diabetes and heart disease. But if you think about it, like so can having too many potato chips, too much cheese, or even too much brown rice, like anything like that overdone, will lead to these type, like again, diabetes and heart disease and all this other stuff. If you have too much of anything, you're going to develop some sort of health issue. So here's the thing. If you want to treat yourself to a donut on Sunday mornings, go for it. It's not going to kill you in any way. However, if you know that eating this one donut will trigger you to eat several more and send you over your daily calorie limit, then you might want to stay away from the donuts, you know? You know yourself best. I've said that before. Don't kid yourself. You're only fooling yourself, you know what I mean? So otherwise, you know, if that's not you, if you can control yourself, you know that you can treat yourself to a donut or a piece of cake or a slice of pie or something like that. Then treat yourself. You deserve it. Just remember, this is not a green light to have treats all the time. It's called a treat for a reason. You know, we're talking about once or twice a week at most. Remember, in moderation, then you're good, you know? On to the fourth fairy godmother story of sugar is that sugar-free is a good alternative. Have you heard this whole thing that you replace your stuff that contains sugar with things of similar, like a similar product, similar food that's sugar-free? Now, I'm not sure where this load of bull came from. I mean, I've been hearing this one for the longest time now, and what I can say is that it might be tempting to trade sugary foods for alternatives, like, you know, foods made with low or no calorie sweeteners, like Sweet and Low, and what are the other ones, stevia and all that crap. I know that you're well aware of these. Like, you know, all these low calorie, no calorie sweeteners. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Like the ever popular diet soda, Diet Coke, you know, or sugar-free cookies. But this could actually backfire on you. And in all honesty, it's not likely to be any healthier for you than regular foods with the added sugars in them. Because here's the thing, with these artificial sweeteners, like, again, aspartame and saccharin and sucralose, it just came to me, all these, like, they've been linked to weight gain, not weight loss. So think about that. In fact, according to an analysis of 37 studies published in the Canadian Medical Association journal, they've gone on record to found that not only do these artificial sweeteners not help much, but they've been tied back or linked to weight gain. Ain't that some shit? You know what I mean? And that's not all. Like they're also tied to a higher risk of like high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes and metabolic syndrome and heart attacks and stroke. You name it, and it's been linked with these artificial sweeteners. So what are you gaining out of that? I mean, think about that. How do you like that? Drop it in the comments. Tell me what you think about all these artificial sweeteners. Do you use them? Like, why do you use them? Think about that. If they've been linked to all these conditions, you know, why use these sweeteners when you can just use the real thing, the real deal, you know? Now, here's a little dose of reality, too. The experts still don't fully understand how these sweeteners fully affect the body. After all, like, think about it. These are chemicals we're talking about here. And with all chemicals, there are short-term effects and there's long-term effects, you know, but there's a growing amount of evidence that suggests that artificial sweeteners can have a negative impact on blood sugar. This evidence is growing by the day, basically. It's showing how it makes it harder to keep your appetite in check. And even it messes with your gut bacteria. It throws it all out of whack. These three things alone, like these are the types of effects that literally put you at risk for obesity and other health-related problems. So if you've been drinking the Kool-Aid, as they say, if you've been drinking that Kool-Aid and when it comes to sugar-free alternatives, again, you're better off sticking to foods made with regular sugar and simply limiting the amount that you eat. That's it. It's really a no-brainer. Again, moderation. Moving along to the fifth lie, because let's face it, these are pretty much just lies, what they're kind of feeding you. The fifth thing is that you'll lose weight on a low or no sugar diet. So yeah, I suppose you can argue that limiting your sugar intake can help you reach your weight loss goals. I don't think there's anyone that can deny that, but that's only if you're mindful of your overall calorie intake, because the reality is that it's really easy to trade sugary foods for not so sugary foods, you know? That's easy, but are these replacements actually any good? Like, think about that. I've got to be careful with these, so-called alternatives. Sometimes they actually have more calories than sugary versions. And I don't think I have to tell you that more calories leads to more weight gain. So keep that in mind. Low or no sugar diets cannot guarantee weight loss. So for example, when I first started keeping track of my food choices and started taking choosing the healthy choice, what I found was that my egg and sausage breakfast sandwich alternative wasn't all that better than the bowl of frosted mini wheats I was eating. You know what I mean? So basically, having a 600 calorie egg and sausage breakfast sandwich instead of the usual 300 calorie bowl of cereal, well, that wasn't really helping me get back into my skinny jeans, let's say. You know what I mean? And let me tell you, the sandwich was in fact much lower in sugar, but the overall calorie count was practically double of what I was having with the cereal. But what you can and should do is choose the unsweetened versions of the foods that you normally eat. So, for instance, plain yogurt versus plain vanilla yogurt, And if you can't find a good replacement, then try gradually cutting back on the amount of sugar that you add to foods like oatmeal and coffee and smoothies. That's actually how I was able to strip out sugar from my coffee. I slowly dialed it back until finally I started drinking it black and without sugar. I was the type that I loved my coffee light and sweet, as they say. You can find many people on the streets of New York that love their coffee light and sweet. And I was one of them, but I was able to dial it back, to reel it in basically. And now I drink my coffee black with no sugar, just like straight, And now that I'm thinking about coffee, I think I'll make me a nice Nespresso once I'm done here, you know what I mean? But before that, let's wrap this up here. 3 more little hacks to go. The 6th sugar lie is sugar is a drug and an addiction. So where do I begin with this? This whole comparing sugar to drugs for, drugs of abuse is a simplistic way of looking at it. It's the Fisher-Price example of what it is and how it fits into your life. We know that sugar stimulates the brain. It gives you that hit of dopamine almost, that it makes you feel good inside. These feelings of pleasure and reward, they can become associated with addiction or abuse because, let's face it, they are similar, but that doesn't make sugar an addictive drug. So why do some people get such a rush when they eat sugary snacks? And why do they feel like they need a regular fix to keep from crashing? Well, like I mentioned earlier, eating the sweet stuff causes your blood sugar to spike and then quickly drop, so you have there's that quick up and down with your blood sugar levels. And this basically translates into a period of time where you're wired, you're up, you're going, you're doing this, you're doing that. And then there's a period of time where you come down quickly or you crash, and then all of a sudden you have no energy and you're practically falling asleep at your keyboard. This crashing part leaves you feeling tired and with a headache. And this crashing feeling often leaves people looking for more sugar to stabilize their mood, to help them feel better, to get that uppity feeling again. And so this up and down and wanting or looking for the next sugar hit or fix, this is the comparison people are making or associating between sugar and drugs. Because it's, I guess it's technically similar. You have that same desire, that same want. You're after that high, that hit, that fix. You want to be up again. But the fact of the matter is that there's little evidence to support the idea that sugar is actually addictive. So when you stay committed to avoiding added sugars at home, so with Pop-Tarts and Frosted Flakes, or even loaded yogurt parfaits, things like that. When you stay focused on lowering your sugar intake and avoiding sugar as much as possible, what you'll find is that you'll have less cravings for sweets when eating out. And I mention eating out because, let's face it, things are getting back to normal here as far as COVID restrictions are concerned, knock on wood. So I know a lot of you are going out to eat more often than not these days if you haven't already. So enjoy yourself, when you go out, but stay focused on your goals as far as minimizing or lowering your sugar intake. And now moving along to the 7th sugar fairy tale is sugar is impossible to avoid. I suppose there's a little truth to this, but it's technically not impossible, and even though it's not impossible, there's still a huge chunk of the American population that are overdoing it when it comes to sugar. In fact, a whopping, a ginormous percentage, 75% to be in fact, of Americans, 75% of Americans eat more sugar than they should, according to the US dietary guidelines. So, and there's an easy way to know whether or not you're one of them, because when I heard this fact, I immediately thought like, damn, am I part of this statistic? Like, do I fall within this percentage range? Like, am I part of the 75% or not? But there's an easy way for you to find out. So if you're like me, then here it is. Try logging your food intake for a few days. That's basically it. It's that simple. That'll give you a pretty good sense of how much sweet stuff you're actually eating, how much of it is in your diet. And it'll make it easier to eat less sugar moving forward, because you can't improve what you don't measure, period. Why do you think a scale is so valuable when tracking fat loss when used right? Preferably a model that calculates your BMI, BMR numbers. So you need numbers, you need a baseline, because you need to know if what you're doing is bringing you up or if it's bringing you down, or if you're staying level. This is no different. If you want to know if you're part of this 75%, then you need a baseline. The way you get to your baseline is simple. Again, you measure it, aka write it down in a journal or in some other format that's convenient to you, but you have to write it down, and you'll know. Like, that is what's going to tell you exactly where you at. And don't worry, if you're overdoing it, then just know that cutting back isn't as painful as you might think. Instead of swearing off your favorite sweet treats, try having smaller portions. Start with that. Less is more. Think about it. When you're trying to get to that point where you're having less sugar, but you have a lot, you've measured what you're taking in and you're like, man, it's pretty high. Start dialing it back little by little. Think about it. There are half as many grams of sugar and fat and calories in a half a cup of ice cream compared to a whole cup of ice cream. Try and argue with me on that one. You know what I mean? Don't stop there though. Keep an eye on packaged foods too. Things like bread, flavored yogurt, cereal, and even tomato sauce, they can all have added sugar that you might not expect, or more than you're expecting. So pay attention to the labels, to those nutritional labels on these packages, and look for options that'll help you stay within your daily sugar limit. And now, without further ado, the 8th, and this is a bonus because I realize this is I named this the 7 fictional tales, but I have one bonus one for you, and it's this. Sugars that are minimally processed or natural are better. So, just as with the last point, there's a little truth in this, but not really, if that makes sense. So, it's true that minimally processed sweeteners like honey or maple syrup, it's true that they have more nutrients than highly processed ones like regular white sugar, you know what I mean? But the amounts of these nutrients are practically zero. It's practically nothing. And so they probably won't have any actual or measurable impact on your health. When it comes to your body, all sources of sugar are the same. Sugar is sugar is sugar. Whether it's naturally occurring or artificially created, doesn't matter. They're the same. And your body treats them the same also, they don't get any kind of special treatment from your body. When it's going through your body, it isn't like your body doesn't treat it differently. Again, sugar is sugar. Your digestive tract breaks down all sources of sugar into simple sugars called monosaccharides. It literally has no idea whatsoever if it came from, table sugar or honey or agave nectar. Your body does not discriminate. All it sees are the monosaccharide sugar molecules floating throughout your body, throughout your system. And they all have the same 4 calories per gram, period. So they all have the same exact impact on your weight. Ain't that some shit? Think about that. It's kind of crazy when you think about it, actually. But here's the bottom line with all this, is that sugar isn't a health food. I think we all know this, because if it was, I'm sure there would be a whole hell of a lot more people on Instagram and TikTok showing off their nice, 6-pack abs, you know what I mean? Am I right? But that being said, it's also not the evil poison that some people make it out to be. Let's be honest here, And while most of us could afford to have less of it, it's perfectly okay to have a little bit, So go ahead, enjoy the occasional sweet treat without the side of guilt. But remember that the operative word in that last statement, enjoy the occasional sweet. The operative word there is occasional. Keep that in mind, and I guarantee that you'll be able to stick to any and all diet regimens that you may choose to follow. Guaranteed. I give you my 100% money back Dad-Splanation guarantee, like I do with all of my products. Wink, wink. And so, with all that said and done, that's it, you guys. That's my show for today. I hope you found some valuable information here, and if nothing else, I hope I've entertained you for a few minutes and was able to bring you a little manly sunshine to you today. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to listen to me. It's very much appreciated. Next week's episode, we'll be answering the question, is one of the world's most loved drinks affecting your blood pressure? So fellas, if you've been keeping an eye on your BP, then next week's episode is for you. And look, your health and fitness goals are easier to achieve than you might think. First and foremost, it's all about keeping your mind straight right from the get-go. And so I have a freebie for you called the 10 Dad-Splanation Mind Hacks. That'll help whip your mind into shape so that you can turn around and whip your body into shape. Does that sound good to you? Then head on over to podcast.dadsplanation.com/mindhacks to get your freebie today and start using these 10 hacks to exercise consistently and create the real and lasting results that you're truly after and that you absolutely deserve. That's podcast.dadsplanation.com/mindhacks. Again, that's podcast.dadsplanation.com/mindhacks. Be in the know starting right now. Also, don't forget to rate me on Apple Podcasts or wherever it is that you're listening to this episode right now. And leave me a nice, fat, juicy 5-star review and some absolutely beautiful words of why you love the show so much. It really helps me get the word out, and it's honestly the one place where your vote truly matters. Until our next chat, take care now.